Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Ayers, where we talk all things Colorado Rockies. And folks, we are getting closer and closer to opening day, now just a few days away, where the Rockies will take on the Miami Marlins. And look, we've got some things that we need to talk about. And right before I was getting ready to record this show Monday night, I see this post from Kevin Henry of the Denver Gazette on Twitter, or X, but we all call it Twitter here in the streets. But he says, hearing that Rockies outfielder Mickey Moniak was taken out of tonight's game out of an abundance of caution following hitting his right ring finger diving back into first. And man, you hope this is just a nothing burger. You hope that it really is just an abundance of caution and he's good to go, because it would be a massive blow to not start this season off with Mickey Moniak, who is probably the brightest story, or if not the brightest, one of the brightest stories for the Colorado Rockies last year. He obviously rehabilitated his career with the Rockies after being released from the Angels. The Rockies lineup was not good last year, and without Moniak, I don't even want to imagine how much worse it would have been. He was a huge, huge force for the Rockies and expected to be a huge force this year in 2026. And so you hope that this is nothing. You hope that it really is, hey, he'll be back tomorrow night, right? Or he'll be back Friday for first pitch. But if he's not ready to go, that is something that the Rockies will have to think about, because Tyler Freeman, already questionable, and if he's not good to go, it's Troy Johnson. Troy Johnson seems to be that first man up if someone goes down. But now if you have two guys go down, if Freeman and Moniak are unable to play, then you start asking questions. Is it Zach Veen? Is Zach Veen the guy that gets the nod? Do you give Adele Amador another opportunity at the major league level? These are the questions that the Rockies will have to ask. You don't think that these questions come up before the season even starts, but look, weird things can happen, and you might have to give the nod to these next men up that are inexperienced, but they're hungry and they want another crack at the major league level. We know Zach Veen has done a ton. We talk about rehabilitating images. Look no further than Zach Veen. But also, we hope that this is a nothing burger. We hope that Moniak is going to be ready to go on Friday. I'm recording this Monday night, so we will know more probably by the time you're watching this video on a Tuesday morning. Maybe you're watching the video Tuesday evening. It doesn't matter. Regardless, just really want Moniak and need Moniak to be healthy for the Colorado Rockies, just for that lineup to have a bit more success. He really does provide a lot offensively for the Colorado Rockies. And, you know, we talk about Moniak, we talk about offensively. I think we have a good idea of who the three starting pitchers will be for the Colorado Rockies against the Marlins. Ryan Feltner pitched tonight. His ERA ballooned to just about a 10 ERA in the spring, so that's good to feel. It's easy to feel confident about that, right? Sugano is going to pitch one more time in the spring, which means our three pitchers against the Marlins should be Kyle Freeland, Michael Lorenzen, and Jose Quintana, and it will most likely be in that order as well. I see Lorenzen as the number 2 guy in this rotation. Kyle Freeland obviously named the opening day starter last week. And so, look, of that start of the season that the Rockies have, right, where they are playing just contender after contender after contender, it's not so bad starting with the Miami Marlins. But look, the Marlins were 79 and 83 last year. They were solid. Their lineup was solid, middle of the road, and they've got some dogs in their starting rotation. They traded away Edward Cabrera to the Cubs, and you think, okay, well, that's probably the race. Well, they still have Sandy. They still have Yuri Perez. And Max Meyer is going to probably be the number 3 guy that the Rockies see. But those two, Sandy and Perez, I mean, that's about as good of a 1-2 punch. Both have dealt with injuries, right? season-ending injuries, and 2025 was kind of a bounce-back year for both of those guys. So I expect them to be in a very strong form, and it's always a little bit tougher for hitters at the start of the year, which should also benefit these Rockies pitchers, should benefit Kyle Freeland, who's looked sensational in the spring. Michael Lorenzen, can't use the word sensational. He's had some good outings. His best outing, obviously, was against Team USA in the World Baseball Classic, and Quintana, who hasn't had a solid outing, but he is a veteran. You have to feel at least a little bit more comfortable with him than who the Rockies were throwing out there last year. So really going to be interesting stuff. I'm really excited for Kyle Freeland. And just an opportunity to kind of rehabilitate and bounce back after a tough, really handful of years. He hasn't had much run support. He's given up a lot of runs, but he figured it out at the end of 2025. And you hope with that, plus his start in 26 in the spring, will lead to a very positive and strong campaign. For the other two, Lorenzen and Quintana, these are going to probably be the easiest teams. This is going to be the easiest team they face for about a month till they face the Reds at the end of April. And the Cincinnati Reds are still, or have been, a pretty darn good team as well. So there's going to be no reprieve whatsoever to start the season for the Colorado Rockies. And you feel more confident about these guys than you did last year, but ultimately, this starting rotation, I've noted it. I don't know where they'll rank at the end of the season, but man, there's a good chance that they're going to be the worst rotation in baseball again. They just haven't seen much in the spring to feel overly confident about. I feel confident about Alan Likman. I feel confident about the front office and piecing things together. And maybe some of these pitchers will piece solid seasons together. I just, there just hasn't been enough that we've seen to feel overly confident. These are all guys that could have over 5 ERAs. These are guys that, outside of Freeland, I could see having over 6 ERAs. And I know that's negative, and I don't like being negative. I love preaching the word of the Colorado Rockies, but I do have to have an ounce of realism here with this starting rotation. It's just hard to feel super excited about. That's not to say there aren't names that I'm looking forward to, especially down the road. I'm obviously very excited about Dollander, about Gordon. And look, Ryan Feltner could be a name too. He just hasn't come into form yet, and we're still waiting for it. But obviously, everything that happens in the spring gets wiped away starting on Friday. And maybe this rotation will surprise us. And heck, if they finish as like the 20th best rotation in baseball, it's a massive, massive, massive win for the Colorado Rockies. But that will take a lot, and that will take a lot in terms of just the ability that this rotation has. And obviously want to talk more about some of those things. We can do a deep dive. Some of that we did earlier in the show back in January and everything, but kind of deep dive why they might have their struggles. Sugano, I'm really interested in because he struggled in Baltimore, which is more pitchers friendly. I don't know how he'll survive at Coors Field, but again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes into form. Last year was just him getting into the swing of things, and now he is he's going to be locked in as a Colorado Rocky. We'll see. But let's talk about someone who's been locked in, who's been absolutely dialed in the spring, and that's TJ Rumfield. As I'm recording this, he hit another 430-foot bomb, and before the game, he was noted as the Rockies' spring MVP. Super well-deserved. He came over from the Yankees in a trade, obviously, in the offseason. And ultimately, this feels like a really good start to what could be a great move for the Rockies. Because I think Rumfield, he didn't only earn a roster spot for opening day. It really feels like he earned the spot to be the starting first baseman for the Colorado Rockies. It would be, we don't know yet, it would be really disappointing if he did all this and it's Edward Julian just starting in the 9 hole for the Rockies. I'd rather see Rumfield just because of the potential power that we got from him this spring. he hit the most home runs. He had over 12 RBIs knocked in, which was the most for the spring. Hit about 280. But it's the power. That's the biggest part that Rumfield provided. He provided a ton of power for the Rockies, something that they did not have much of last year. His and that bat is just far more impressive than Edward Julian. Edward Julian will be a utility guy. I'm sure he'll be plugged and played, which is great. But at the first base position, it has to be Rumfield at this point. He has earned it. We've talked about the floor is raising. Guys will have to earn their spots. I don't know what else TJ Rumfield can do to prove that he deserves to be the starting first baseman for the Rockies. Just as Kyle Karros earned that starting job at the third base position. Kyle Karros and Rumfield could have both be given the MVP of spring because I think both were sensational for the Colorado Rockies. And it's obviously spring training. Sensational in the spring doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of it if you stink during the regular season. But there is something to be said that they played how they needed to play, not only to earn roster spots, but to what I believe should be starting positions for the Colorado Rockies. So for Rumfield, that's huge. He's going to be a rookie this year. He's been kind of a minor league guy for the last couple seasons, and now he's going to get a chance to actually start. For Karros, obviously we've talked about him a lot. He's already played at the major league level, and now I think he's going to be an everyday guy for the Colorado Rockies. So obviously really exciting for both those guys. This is the focus on TJ Rumfield, though. It's been cool. It's just been really cool to see because when the Rockies made that trade, it was like, all right, well, let's just add him to this competition of guys that we don't feel overly confident about. And that was at the time when everyone was like, well, maybe it's Blaine Krim. And I think a lot of Rockies fans were like, I don't know who the hell Blaine Krim is. And so TJ Rumfield walks away not only a winner because he's on the roster, he's probably going to start. Rockies fans probably know TJ Rumfield's name, and I think they will have an opportunity. He will have an opportunity to have his name be more well known by the end of the season, just with the capabilities of that bat. Now, let's face it, though, it's not a position that is going to be guaranteed for him or whatever for the full season because we know Charlie Condon's going to be called up. So for Rumfield, we talk about raising the floor and making guys play at their best. That's actually kind of a good thing. I think Rumfield, knowing he's earned the spot, but it's not guaranteed. He's going to have to continue to play hard and play well for the Rockies. So super well-deserved, bit of a tangent there, but overall you get the point. TJ Rumfield, well-deserved, awesome spring from him and a few others that proved that the Rockies were practicing what they preached in terms of raising that floor and earning a spot. Finally, we'll end the show with Chase Dollander. He had some interesting quotes just about how he was a bit surprised that he would start in the bullpen this season, but also noted that, you know what, he's going to prepare the same way. And so these are kind of the interesting things when you deal with professional athletes. Luckily, it sounds like Dollander has a pretty good head on his shoulder, just in terms of how he will prepare, how will he get ready. But you also have to manage that, and it is one of these mini storylines that we will have to watch as Rockies fans. Because Dollander might be fine with it at the start of the year. But if you're a top pick and a guy who thinks you will dominate in this league, how long can that go on for, right? Like, if it's July and he's still giving you 2 or 3 innings and we're still rocking some of these other starting pitchers, I don't think Dollander is going to be as okay with it as he is at the start of the season. I see it as someone who's like, all right, I will be ready, and one of these pitchers inevitably stinks, you're going to want me as a starter. And that's just obviously my read on it. He's going to be a pro's pro, but I think he obviously wants to be a starting pitcher, and he wants to make an impact as a starting pitcher. He struggled at home, but on the road last year, he had a 3.46 ERA in 10 starts. And ultimately, that's about what you would want from him. That wasn't in the full season, but that was during part of the season. And for Dollander, that is That's what you want from a rookie, is to show those flashes. The problem is, at home it was like a 9.5 ERA. I mean, he was getting absolutely shelled, and it was mentioned one of the big things was he would struggle and fall behind in counts, and that's going to be one of the big things for him at the major league level. How do you get ahead? How do you throw your nasty stuff and get into counts that are 1-2, 0-2, you name it? So we'll see. I'm just curious how will Warren Schaefer manage some of these personalities? How will Warren Schaefer handle when you start getting in bigger personalities and egos and guys who believe they should be playing at the top level? Because when you're a bad team, everyone's like, all right, whatever. But when you feel like you're starting to build something, guys want to be those pillars, and everyone has a role, and people have to buy into roles. And Dollander is still young; he's only 23 years old, but he expects to be an ace, and I think Warren Schaefer expects him to be an ace. And I'm not saying the move to the bullpen is a bad one. I think it's just one that the Rockies will want to proceed with caution, because if Dollander ends up just being a middle reliever for the Rockies for even the full season, and they don't have a clear path for him, just will create a lot of question marks. Luckily, it's a long season. I don't see that happening. But it's one of the many storylines that we talk about, and one of the many storylines that you need to follow. Because although the Rockies are expected to be bad, there are still important things in this development and for this front office to ensure that they're going in the right direction. Because what the Rockies can't do is what they've done the last 5-6 years, and that is just the direction is spinning in circles with no end goal in sight and just expecting different results. And so I like the idea that Dollander's going to pitch at the major league level. I like that he will probably get called upon because some of these starting pitchers might have issues. But you want to manage that relationship with him, especially if you think he's going to be the ace for the Colorado Rockies. And with that does it for another Rockies Daily. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Do you agree that Chase Dollander should come out of the bullpen? Do you want to see him starting for the Colorado Rockies? Let me know down in the comments. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.